ancient civilizations discovered something terrifying. Achievement does not cure emptiness. Kings conquered nations, builders raised monuments, merchants accumulated unimaginable wealth, and still, something remained unfulfilled. The book of Ecclesiastes is one of the strangest texts ever preserved in Scripture, because instead of celebrating civilization, it questions whether civilization itself is enough to satisfy the human soul. What if endless striving was never freedom? What if the machine of accumulation has always led toward the same destination, exhaustion? Welcome to Code of Scripture. This afternoon we decode Ecclesiastes not as pessimism, but as an ancient warning about the collapse of meaning. One phrase echoes throughout Ecclesiastes repeatedly: vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Modern readers often misunderstand this. The ancient word translated as vanity is closer to vapor, breath, smoke, something impossible to hold permanently. Ecclesiastes is not saying life has no meaning. It is saying human beings keep searching for permanence inside temporary systems. This creates endless dissatisfaction. Empires rise, empires fall, wealth accumulates, wealth disappears, bodies age, memories fade. The ancient writer observed civilization carefully and arrived at a disturbing realization. Humanity keeps trying to build eternal meaning from temporary materials. Ecclesiastes feels shockingly modern because it describes a civilization trapped in endless striving, work, consumption, ambition, accumulation. Always more, never enough. The writer experiments with everything society promises will create fulfillment, pleasure, wealth, entertainment, achievement, status, knowledge, and after reaching the heights of each, still finds emptiness waiting underneath. This is deeply dangerous to systems of extraction because civilizations survive by convincing people the next achievement will finally satisfy them, the next purchase, the next promotion, the next level of visibility. But Ecclesiastes interrupts the cycle entirely. It asks, what if the hunger itself never ends? Ecclesiastes constantly repeats the phrase, under the sun. This is important. It refers to life trapped entirely within material cycles: birth, labor, consumption, death, again and again. The text describes nature itself moving in endless repetition, rivers flowing endlessly into the sea, winds circling continuously, generations rising and disappearing. Civilization appears advanced, but underneath, the same patterns continue endlessly. This creates existential fatigue, because the human mind eventually recognizes repetition, and once consciousness notices the cycle, it becomes difficult to pretend the machine is leading somewhere new. One of Ecclesiastes' most unsettling ideas is this: in much wisdom is much grief. Why? Because awareness removes comforting illusions. The more deeply a person understands mortality, impermanence, manipulation, repetition, the harder it becomes to fully participate in unconscious systems. Knowledge creates distance. The machine depends on constant stimulation to prevent reflection. Ecclesiastes does the opposite. It slows consciousness down, forces observation, and once people truly observe civilization long enough, they begin noticing how much energy is spent distracting humanity from existential questions. Ecclesiastes treats time almost like an invisible predator. Everything deteriorates eventually: beauty, strength, wealth, power, memory. Even great civilizations become ruins swallowed by dust. The writer repeatedly confronts humanity with a forbidden realization. Most systems promise permanence they cannot actually deliver. This is why ancient kings obsessed over monuments and legacy. They feared disappearance. Modern civilization behaves similarly: endless content, endless production, endless documentation, endless digital identity construction. A desperate attempt to outlast time itself. But Ecclesiastes quietly whispers, the erosion continues anyway. And yet, Ecclesiastes is not hopeless. Beneath the existential exhaustion lies a hidden revelation. If temporary systems cannot provide ultimate meaning, then perhaps meaning must exist somewhere else entirely, not in accumulation, not in endless striving, not in performance. The text repeatedly returns to simple experiences: eating, friendship, presence, stillness, gratitude, awareness, tiny moments untouched by the machine of ambition. This becomes the secret reversal of Ecclesiastes. The collapse of false meaning creates the possibility of authentic meaning. Once illusions dissolve, reality becomes visible again. Ecclesiastes may secretly preserve one of humanity's oldest psychological warnings. A civilization obsessed with endless growth eventually creates spiritual exhaustion. People become emotionally numb, existentially detached, endlessly distracted, unable to experience fulfillment, because the machine teaches humanity to chase motion instead of presence. The writer saw this thousands of years ago and understood: a society that cannot slow down long enough to confront mortality will endlessly consume itself trying to escape it. Perhaps Ecclesiastes survived because every civilization eventually reaches the same point, the moment when humanity gains everything it was told to pursue and discovers the emptiness remains. The collapse begins quietly, not through war, not through invasion, but through a growing inability to believe the machine's promises anymore. And perhaps that is why Ecclesiastes feels so dangerous, because it does not merely criticize civilization. It exposes the exhaustion hidden beneath endless striving. This has been a code of scripture, and perhaps the ancients preserved Ecclesiastes for one reason: because once consciousness recognizes the cycle, it must choose whether to continue running inside it, or finally step outside the machine and face reality directly.